Chapter 50. Osama Bin Laden. We expect to be rewarded by God. Osama Bin Laden. Lilab and I were discussing my upcoming mission. Osama Bin Laden was the last card played by the darkness in the game for control of the world. Darkness waited for the right card to be played just at the beginning of the 21st century. "What do you think about Osama bin Laden?" Lilab asked. Osama bin Laden had not only been a symbol of terrorism, but someone who changed the world. The world has not been the same since 9/11, and clearly we are winning the war thanks to the role played by Osama bin Laden, I answered. "You are right, Myra. This war is between the gods, and quoting bin Laden, it is the duty of the Muslims to use as much force as possible to terrorize the enemies of God," Lilab said. "I wonder which God bin Laden refers to," I asked. "That's a good question. You will have to find the answer to that by yourself," Lilab told me. "I died before 9/11, and everything I know about 9/11 I learned here. I know the truth, but people on Earth don't know, and for them nothing will ever be the same again," I noted. "I agree with you, Myra. Moreover, now are you ready to return to the past? Because that past is so close that it's really the present, but it is also the future in the making," Lilab explained. "Yes, I'm ready, Lilab," I told him. We therefore walked into the time-traveling room. I said goodbye to Lilab and once more found myself flying into the very near past, as I was flying over Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Osama bin Mohammed bin Awad bin Laden was ready to be born. The exact date was March 11th, 1957. I wanted to be sure that the time was accurate, as there had been some controversy surrounding the day Osama bin Laden's birth. Some sources said it was March 10th, and other sources indicated July 30th. It was early in the day, March 11th. I added the numbers of the date. 3111957 equals 27 equals 2 plus 7, 9. Osama bin Laden's birth number was a 9. As we will see later, number 9 was going to play an essential role in his life. Looking into Osama bin Laden's numbers, he was always an 8, since he was thought to be born on March 10th, 1957. 3111957 equals 26 equals 2 plus 6, 8. But now I can see that he was born on March 11th, 1957, making him a 9. I believe that the one-day difference can have a significant impact on understanding Osama bin Laden. He was born in the year 1957. 1957 equals 22, which is a powerful 22, as with the number of 22 cards played with both the light and the darkness. Bin Laden was the 17th, 1 and 7 equals 8, of 52 children of construction magnate Mohammed Awad bin Laden, an immigrant from Yemen who became a billionaire by building his company into the largest construction firm in Saudi Arabia. Bin Laden married for the first time when he was 17. I wondered about this number, 17. 1 plus 7, 8? It was clear to me that number 8 was going to have a significant meaning in bin Laden's life, without forgetting 9. Osama's father was stringent. He insisted that all his children live under the same roof, and they observed a rigid religious moral code. Osama's father wanted his children to be confident and self-sufficient at an early age. At the age of 14, Osama received recognition as an outstanding student at school. As a prize, he received an invitation to join a small Islamic group with the reward of earning extra credit. The primary purpose of this Islamic group was to memorize the entire Quran by the time they graduated from this institution. However, this group lost its original focus on learning the Quran, and the group evolved into a dangerous and violent jihadist philosophy. As he once stated, every Muslim must rise to defend his religion. The wind of faith is blowing. There is no dialogue except with weapons. Bin Laden was very influenced by the group's leader, who belonged to a sect of Islam named Brotherhood. He instructed his students in the importance of bringing into the Islamic world a pure Islamic law. His students learned that the true Islam would support death and destruction to bring Islamic law all over the world. Bin Laden was a good student, and soon he grew an untrimmed beard, wore shorter pants, and wrinkled shirts, imitating the Prophet Muhammad's dress. He graduated from El Tagar School in 1976. After graduating, he attended King Abdul Aziz University in Jeddah, where he received a degree in engineering and public administration in 1981. At this time, bin Laden was hopeful of joining the family business. How can a man who wanted to be an engineer and join the family business suddenly become the most notorious terrorist of all time? I asked myself. The turning point was the Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan in 1978. After graduating from King Abdul Aziz University, bin Laden traveled to Afghanistan and joined the Afghan resistance. He truly believed that it was his duty as a Muslim to fight the occupation by Soviet troops, and so he established himself in Peshawar. I can see bin Laden in Peshawar in a meeting. There are 10 or 12 people at the meeting. 2 of them are CIA agents, and these agents were helping him in the resistance. They were helping him to recruit and train mujahideen under the CIA program named Operation Cyclone. Under Operation Cyclone, which lasted from 1979 to 1989, the United States provided financial aid and weapons to the mujahideen. However, the CIA's help was not enough to cover all the expenses needed, and bin Laden used money and machinery from his family's construction company in Saudi Arabia to help the mujahideen resistance against the Soviets. By 1984, bin Laden and his friend Azam had created a company called Maktab al-Qadamat, which funneled money, arms, and fighters from all over the Arab world into Afghanistan. Through Maktab al-Qadamat, bin Laden's inherited family fortune was used to pay for the war of resistance in Afghanistan. He truly believed in the Shahira and thought that the battle of strength in Afghanistan with the restoration of God's law would get things right for the rest of the Muslim world. He said, "When we used to follow Muhammad's revelation, we were in great happiness and great dignity. To Allah belongs the credit and the praise." Bin Laden held his belief that the only Islamic country in the world was Afghanistan, and he believed that he could declare jihad, which he did. The Soviets withdrew from Afghanistan in 1989, and bin Laden returned to Saudi Arabia, where they welcomed him as a hero. The United States called him and his soldiers freedom fighters. Freedom fighters. What is a freedom fighter? I asked myself. According to the most common definition, a freedom fighter is a person engaged in a resistance movement against what they believe to be an oppressive and illegitimate government. It is a strange concept because the same person could be called a terrorist, especially by the oppressor he is fighting. Depending on one's ideology, either you can be a freedom fighter or a terrorist. America initially labeled bin Laden a freedom fighter, and later they called him a terrorist. It is akin to the closeness of the light and the darkness. The labels are interchangeable. Bin Laden was a freedom fighter fighting the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, and when he was fighting the Western world, he was labeled as a terrorist. In the end, is it not the same to be a terrorist or a freedom fighter? On one hand, freedom fighters are terrorists for the oppressor government, but at the same time they are freedom fighters and heroes for the other part of society, which is combating the oppressor government. I believe that the first utilization of the freedom fighter denomination was by the then-President Ronald Reagan when referring to the Contra rebels fighting in Nicaragua against the Marxist Sandinista revolution. The Mujahideen freedom fighters eventually became the Taliban. They went from freedom fighters to oppressors. They just changed sides. But were they any different? They became the Taliban, a fundamentalist Islamic militia in Afghanistan. The name Taliban, first used in Afghanistan in 1992, caused the formation of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan in 1994. Suddenly, the West's heroes became the West's worst enemies. As with love and hate, there is a fragile layer between hero and terrorist. Bin Laden once said, "If inciting people to do what is terrorism, then let history be the witness that we are terrorists." Bin Laden believed that Afghanistan, under Mullah Omar's Taliban rule, was the only valid Islamic country in the world. In 1993, Bin Laden had created a sacred terrorist or freedom fighters network known as Al-Qaeda, which translates as the base. This base consisted of militant Muslims that Bin Laden had met while fighting in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda's goal was to take up the jihadist cause around the world and bring to life a pure Islamic law to which Islamics of the world will unite under Al-Qaeda and Bin Laden's leadership. Bin Laden began speaking publicly against American troops in Saudi Arabia, believing their presence to have violated sacred soil. He also began executing his plans with the final objective of drawing the United States into war. As Bin Laden once said, "The ruling to kill the Americans and their allies, civilians and the military, is an individual duty for every Muslim who can do it in any country in which it is possible to do it." Moreover, Bin Laden went further. It would be a sin for Muslims not to try to possess the weapons that would prevent the infidels from inflicting harm on Muslims. From the moment they realize the distinction in their hearts, hate Americans, hate Jews, and hate Christians. For as long as I can remember, I have felt tormented and at war, and have felt hatred and animosity for Americans, Bin Laden declared. I looked further into Bin Laden's life, and am now on February 26, 1993, when a bomb exploded at the World Trade Center in New York. Bin Laden was already showing what his target was going to be. I look at the year, 1993, and added the numbers. 1993 equals 22. 22. It was evident to me that the pattern was present. Bin Laden was born in 1957. 1957 equals 22. And 19 years later, 19, 1 plus 8, 9. We have the year 1957 equals 22. 9 years later, in 1984, he established Miktab al-Khidmat. And 9 years further on, with 4 cycles of 9, when Bin Laden was 36, 3 plus 6 equals 9, was the year in which Bin Laden became a convinced jihadist. He created Al-Qaeda and attempted for the first time to destroy the World Trade Center. Bin Laden was number 9. The sacred Quran was giving the faithful on the 9th month, and Bin Laden was going to be devoted to that number. Number 9 will always be attached to the Muslims, and Bin Laden was a real number 9, which he was willing to prove. In 1996, Bin Laden officially declared jihad, or holy war, against the United States and its allies. In a message from Osama bin Laden to his Muslim brothers throughout the world, "Expel the heretics from the Arabian Peninsula, as you should know that the people of Islam had suffered from aggression and injustice imposed upon them by the Zionist Crusaders Alliance and their collaborators. They suffered to the extent that the Muslims' blood became the cheapest and their wealth as loot in the hands of the enemies. Their blood was spilled in Palestine and Iraq. Massacres all over sent shivers in the body and shake the conscience. All of this, and the world watches and hears, and not only didn't respond to these atrocities, but also with a clear conspiracy between the USA and its allies and under the cover of the ubiquitous United Nations, the disposed people were unable to obtain arms to defend themselves. The people of Islam awakened and realized that they were the main target of the aggression of the Zionist Crusaders Alliance. All false claims and propaganda about human rights were hammered down and exposed by the massacres that took place against the Muslims in every part of the world. In 1998, Bin Laden issued another jihad that I previously mentioned against the Jews and the Crusaders. The ruling to kill the Americans and their allies, civilians and military, is the individual duty for every Muslim who can do it in any country in which it's possible to do it. Bin Laden kept issuing jihads all over the Islamic world while he was preparing his most significant attack on America on 9/11. He learned about the mistakes that he had made during his terrorist attack of 1993, and this time he was ready to give the Crusaders the most significant blow they have received since the fall of Constantinople. I now find myself before the deadliest incident in the history of the United States, 9/11. In total, 2,996 people died in the attacks. I added the numbers. 2996 equals 26 equals 8. Number 8. I knew that this number was going to be there alongside 9 and 11. Suspicion quickly fell on bin Laden and al-Qaeda. However, initially bin Laden denied responsibility for the 9/11 attacks. Neither I nor my organization al-Qaeda within America. The attackers could be anybody, people who are a part of the American system, those against it, or some group that wants to make this century a century of confrontation between Islam and Christianity. A century of confrontation between Islam and Christianity? Throughout history, Islam and Christianity have always encountered and confronted each other, which is nothing new. Can anyone remember any period of peace and cooperation between these two religions? Why don't people understand that this is a war between the gods and humanity? Christian-Muslim relations have always been an issue since the rise of Islam in 622 AD CE. The practical question is, can individuals and communities of the two faiths live together? Christian-Muslim relations have a very complicated history, marked by constant wars. After September 11th, new attitudes of distrust and hostility have arisen worldwide. Christians and Muslims have often inherited ideas, images, and stereotypes, mostly negative, which have marked their mutual perceptions. Are both impressions wrong? Our perception is our only reality. Our world constructs how we perceive things, so how can we change these views? Christians have always perceived Islam as a political, economic, and theological threat. If not, then why have Christians been fighting Islam for over 1,400 years? Christians view Islam as intolerant, violent, and menacing. However, the term Muslim means those who fully surrender themselves to accepting and carrying out God's will. Why is it so difficult to understand that the energy of God is the combination of various powerful energies? It's a war of gods, and it's politics that divide humanity into groups and then create hatred between them. What are these politics, and who are these politicians? They claim to be of the light. But are they the light, or more like the darkness? Bin Laden strongly believed that Muslims must fight the non-believers who make war against Allah and His apostle. Just like you kill us, we will kill you. He studied the Quran profoundly, and his favorite surah was Surah number 9, which is his birth number. Surah number 9, verse 5, is named the Verse of the Sword. Yes, bin Laden was the sword of Islam against Christians and Jews. Then, when the sacred months have passed, slay the idolaters wherever you find them, and take them captive, and besiege them, and prepare for them an ambush. However, the second part of the verse says, "But if they repent and establish regular prayers and practice regular charity, then open the way for them, for God is all-forgiving, most merciful." In the end, it's all left to interpretation, and Bin Laden already has his argument, which was jihad against the infidel. He believed that Christians remained engaged for centuries in an ongoing crusade against the Muslim world. Also, he thought that Allah was the source of all life and of everything that exists. He firmly believed in the 99 beautiful names of God, which describe Allah's distinct qualities and attributes. I stop here. What did the darkness want to tell me during my explanation? I see the 99 names of God, Bin Laden, 9/11, fantastic, another incredible meaning for 9/11. The 99 names of God? The numbers 9/11 never stop startling me. There's no doubt that Islam and the numbers 9 and 11 are intertwined. It is in the 9th month of the year in which the fate, the Holy Quran, was given to the faithful, and Muslims follow the lunar calendar, 11 days shorter than the solar calendar. For this reason, Ramadan returns 11 days every year. The 99 names of God. 9 times 11 equals 99. Bin Laden was going to be 47. 4 plus 7, 11. Years old on March 11th, 2004. Add the numbers. 3, 1, 1, 2, 4 equals 11. What better way to celebrate his birthday than to remember the Crusaders and his never-ending war against them? Then, that day in Madrid, Spain, exactly 911 days after 9/11, a terrorist attack took place in Madrid, and 191 people died. Yes, 191 equals 11. 9/11 appears again on 3/11/2004. 3, 1, 1, 2, 4 equals 11. I wonder why people on Earth don't pay attention to the numbers. The answers are always there if one looks hard enough. Bin Laden was in retreat, but he never surrendered. As he once stated, "If inciting people to do what is terrorism, and if killing those who kill our sons is terrorism, then let history be the witness that we are terrorists." He remained accustomed to being called a terrorist. We do not have to differentiate between military and civilian. As far as we are concerned, they are all targets. America appeared mighty, but it was weak and cowardly. Look at Vietnam. Look at Lebanon. Whenever soldiers start coming home in body bags, Americans panic and retreat. Such a country needs confrontation with 2 or 3 sharp blows. Then it will flee in panic, as it always has. It cannot stand against warriors of faith who do not fear death. Warriors of faith who do not fear death. If dying in jihad guarantees heaven, why aren't there 100 times as many Islamic terrorists as there are today? Heaven and hell? What do humans know about these places? What is heaven and what is hell? They don't realize that hell is here, on earth. In the afterlife, either in the learning place or the scanning place, there is no violence, only learning. Learning in 2 different ways, but merely learning the correct way to approach your next incarnation. Jihad means struggle in Islam. If people believe that dying for jihad will take you to heaven, I can imagine that there should be a much higher number of suicidal attackers than there currently are. Why isn't the elderly, the terminally ill, or those down on their luck with nothing to lose part of a jihadi movement? Why are they not suicide bombers as well if heaven is the paradise? Why use children to carry bombs when paradise is at hand? Can you force the gods of heaven to open up to you? The problem that I see with people willing to die for their faith is that they can only use this once. However, does anyone care? Does the light care? I wonder about the people of the light with their religions and their lives. Religion by its very nature is ambiguous. What does religion even mean? Every dominant religion claims exclusivity, meaning they are the only solution. So which one will save you, and how will it protect you? Is religion above eternity, immorality, God, a single God, many gods? Or is it about finding purpose and meaning in something? Also, which faith will save you? Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism? It's a joke that people still believe in religion. More than 6,000 years of this game on earth, and people still believe that faith can save them. Every civilization throughout the history of humanity has worshipped some god. So who are we? Why are we here? Also, where are we going? Do people on earth deeply believe in that? At the Darkness's realm, we try to teach people that God is within yourself and that we are all a part of God. But you need to find the truth by yourself. Do the people need a priest or a mullah to find God? Do they need a church or a mosque to find God? There's a better world after we die, but this is the world where humans live. Humans have chosen to live here. They have chosen their experiences, and then later they complain. People of the light become fundamentalists and honestly believe or imagine that one of their sacred books contains the perfect words of the Creator of the universe. What is the nature of faith itself? Faith conflicts with reason. A supreme being who listens to our thoughts and prayers? Martyrdom? Are the people of the light crazy? They will die for what purpose? Do people think that the demiurge needed them to die for it? It should be for them, and not for him. There is not a single God, as 22 original gods and 52 angelic beings produced the creation. Why do people on earth insist on one God? We are in the middle of the war of the gods, and people don't seem to understand that. Scientists say that space-time may be a closed manifold, and therefore may have no beginning or end. Yes, there is no beginning or an end, but always a continuation. Even if people don't want to believe it, the learning place and the scanning place exist, and they are for real. Now, back to Bin Laden. He was an environmentalist. You Americans have destroyed nature with your industrial waste and gases more than any other nation in history. Despite this, you refuse to sign the Kyoto Agreement so that you can secure the profit of your greedy companies and industries. How brutal and greedy the Western Crusader world is, with America at its top. This quotation could have come from any pacifist of the light. However, it came from a terrorist. Are the light and the darkness so different? The life of Bin Laden was now coming to an end. Would anyone remember him as a frugal man and a strict father who enjoyed taking his family on shooting trips and adventures in the desert? Or will he be remembered as the most notorious terrorist that ever walked the earth? On May 2, 2011, in the early morning, a small group of U.S. forces raided a fortified compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. During this raid, they killed Bin Laden and buried his body at sea. President Barack Obama said, "The United States conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda." From 2001 to 2011, bin Laden was the primary target of the war of terrorism. It's incredible to see these numbers from 2001 to 2011, covering a period of 11 years, from 1 to 11, and learn, however. The real time was a little over 9 years. Again, the combination 9/11 appears, and analyzing the day of his death, 5/2/2011, we see the number 11 once again. 5 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 equals 11. Moreover, if we separate the day and the month from the digits of the year, we have the combinations 5 plus 2 plus 2 equals 9, and the year 11. Again, 9/11. Is it a coincidence, or are the numbers intentionally real? My time was over, so I arrived at the scanning place, and Lilab was waiting for me with a big smile. "How was it, Myra?" Lilab asked. "An unbelievable experience," I answered. We walked toward Iway's office. The door was closed, and Lilab knocked. "Come in," Iway said. Rafasul was seated there as well, and both of them greeted me. "Tell us about bin Laden," Iway began. I do not doubt that Bin Laden's card was card number 13, the card of death, I revealed. Good. Now explain it to us, Refusul requested. Death is the ultimate purifier. The death card represents transformation, a new life, and Bin Laden transformed the world. Death himself is riding on a white horse. Death then awakens as the skeletal bones are part of the body that survives death, which is one reason why Islam forbids cremation. Islamic teachings require that the deceased be cleaned, shrouded, prayed for, buried in the earth, and visited with reverence. Cremation is considered an act of disrespect and sin. However, not all Muslims follow these teachings. People on earth were scandalized with the burning alive of a Jordanian Islamic pilot captured by ISIS. It's forbidden for a Muslim to cremate or put to death via fire another Muslim, and it's also prohibited for a Muslim to cremate a non-Muslim. Based on the Prophet Muhammad's teachings, burning is a punishment that must be delivered only by the Creator. As I explained previously, the horse that death rides is white, which signifies purity. This is why they buried Bin Laden at sea with a white shroud. The white rose indicates beauty, purification, and immortality. The sun in the card appears to die every night, but is born again every morning. Death means transformation, change, and transition to the world. Thanks to Bin Laden, the darkness is stronger than ever. This card signifies being in the path of a sweeping change, and the turn came for all the world. Being caught in the inescapable and going through the unavoidable, Bin Laden went through being part of a powerful movement, following his fate and accepting the inevitable. Death is inevitable, and sometimes some events are inescapable as well. In this card we see humans' deepest fear, because the death card is about endings, and that includes the conclusion of life. Bin Laden is the death of an era, the end of many liberties for the people on earth. In the death card we can see the skeleton and the black arrow riding across the landscape. Beneath the death we see a dead body laid out, a corpse whose crown has fallen from his head. For Bin Laden, this represents the United States losing its crown and becoming a vulnerable country. The pieces of the bodies of infidels were flying like dust particles. If you'd seen it with your own eyes, you would have been very pleased, and your heart would fill with joy, Bin Laden once noted in honor of this card. Pythagorean numerology believed that the number 13 represented evil death, evil actions, and wickedness. The horse's leg is raised in this card, in a slow march on an absolute path so that nothing remains spared. Moreover, on 9/11, nothing was spared. The death card signifies a change in the future that will modify all the aspects of people on earth. The changes will be permanent, significant, and absolute. It represents a complete severance between the past and the future, and it will be painful. However, life is in continuous motion, and this is the way of the death card. Death is never the end, but rather it is a single motion in a different direction. People of the light don't understand this. They don't want to understand that everything which is born is destined to die. Our first death is our birth when we come into the physical world to experience fear and aggression, and we remain separate from all that has sustained us, our mother and creator or creators. Moreover, number 13 represents profound change, destruction and renewal, new situations, transitions, transformation, mortality, separation, loss, and revolution. Bin Laden and card number 13, the card of death, represented all of that, I concluded. Marvelous, Myra, Yue said. And what is the commandment that you bring for the darkness from Bin Laden? Refusul asked. The commandment is, death is only for your good, I answered. Can you further explain this commandment? Lileb questioned me. Like in Bin Laden's pictures, they will be kept secret for your own good, I answered. Iwe, Refusul, and Lialeb laughed loudly at my comment. Death will never let you down. People on earth don't love death, but many of them hate their lives. Death is simply a transformation. Epicurus said that death is nothing to us because when we are dead, we are not present, and when death arrives, we do not exist anymore to experience it. We in the darkness know that death gives you an opportunity of rebirth. You can choose the light or the darkness, but eventually we always come back and forth until the war between the gods is over, I concluded.